Okay, so last time we drove the T1, T26 here, the clutch stopped working. See, every time I flip this, it turns the transmission no matter which direction I've got the lever. So we're going to have to get the clutch apart and see what happened in there. And to do that, I am going to take the wheel off the side here, because I think I can just get the clutch bell off the side here without needing to remove the transmission. But and then, if you remember from last time we had this apart, it's the wheels are sandwiched onto this hub with this boss in the middle, so I should be able to just take all these screws out and then pop the wheel off the side to access that clutch. Like I said, instead of having to remove the entire engine to get down to the... Well, the engine is... I don't want to remove the engine because it... There we go. Okay. Is full of oil and everything, and I'd have to tip it all over, so there we go. There's a 1.5 millimeter bolt here. Aha, and removing these bolts, it's already caused the clutch to loosen, so it's no longer stuck in the drive position. So, alright, those 3 bolts go through there. There's a bearing on the inside there, so that's nice. Drop those back in the housing and set that housing aside with that pulley housing aside. Now, yep. Let me move the camera. Okay. The camera down and closer level here. So this is inside the clutch there, and you can see the activation. It moves this plate in and out, and so the friction in there is got stuck at some point. Because there. Alright, and that was enough, I guess, just getting the clutch bell off of there. So, let's see. These friction plates... Oh wait, one of those is tore up in there. Alright, I'm going to have to take this apart and investigate those. There we go. Okay. So, in order... There's a set screw there. 1.5 millimeter. That will loosen. And get that off. And there is, oh, those are carbon fiber discs. That's why they looked all shattered, is because of the pattern on the carbon fiber. And you can see the carbon fiber pattern on these stamped clutch discs. And there's oil in this clutch somehow, and I'm trying to figure out how. Oh, need to wipe these carbon discs off. Okay. Well, I'm going to just there's a hex cut in the center of those, but there's not a hex piece for them to slip over in here to hold this cut, for all this to stay lined up on. I guess I need to figure out how to get the rest of that clutch out. So we'll get this other rear wheel off. Other wheel out, and now this will sit level again because it's got no wheels on it. So that is the gear shift end, and there is the clutch end. I'm going to take the clutch link lever link off, and it is spring loaded, which I do remember from inside last time. Take that screw out so we don't misplace it. And keep an eye on those carbon fiber friction parts. Now, there's two bolts here. Actually, at this point, we're far enough out here that I'm trying to remember how. Oh, right, I can't just pop the transmission off because this control lever is all pinned together and it won't come out of the bottom gear shift. So to get the transmission off requires a lot of removing the entire, getting the transmission off requires removing the entire control panel and operator station. That's why that's the clutch control lever arm side with just a wedge there and then the lever turns and makes that pressure go in. There's a set screw on the side out here. Okay, so that was a failed attempt to get that out. Let's get a toothpick. So I've got something very soft. I think there's a couple more carbon fiber discs on here. And if they're all, yep, they're all contaminated with oil. Yep, they sure are. They're very contaminated. Yeah, if the whole clutch is contaminated, then we got to clean all these discs. Very contaminated. That is a surprising number of discs in this clutch. Very impressive. Although I suppose if they were going to make it fewer discs, then they could have just made it a fork clutch and not had a full disc clutch. Because right now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's, I'm feeling this get loose and thinking maybe that it's going to pop off of here. But clearly that's not happening. And I wish I could move my lights down here. But my lights, let's try. There. That light does swing down here. So there's one I think you can see, very fat foundational one, and then yeah, foundational clutch disc, and then it alternates just like a real big clutch. So okay, well, need to clean all that out because that clutch is supposed to be a dry clutch with all those carbon fibers in there, so I'm going to have to clean this out. And oh, okay, that's where the hex side is. The clutch assembles onto this side and goes on there. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to have to get some Q-tips and clean that out very thoroughly to dry it up in there and wipe all those off and wash them off and then reassemble it. So we'll get some cleaning materials and clean all those up and come back and reassemble it. Alright, so it turns out we didn't have to take this side off, but since we've got it out, I'm going to wipe this shaft off and wipe up all this grease that's coming out around here. So I greased up this gearbox quite a bit and clearly over greased it because it's coming out and seeped into the clutch bell, which I'm not sad I did that. I wish I had gotten exactly the right amount of grease, but clearly it's gonna keep seeping for a bit, and I'll just have to clean this clutch bell out as the grease works its way out of the gearbox. But eventually it'll come down to the correct amount. Now, I think it's visible. There's a tiny shoulder on this shaft. There's a tiny shoulder on this shaft, and so for the clutch actuator arm here, that fits on the shoulder. I'll turn this right way around up. And that's what presses the shaft, moves the shaft for the clutch. So I'm going to just get this and then get those screws back in on this side while the clutch discs are just soaking in isopropyl alcohol to get the grease off of them. That bracket is back in place. There we go. Get our clutch arm back in, and now it's working. So that's released, and that is clutch engaged. So we'll leave it in the relaxed or engaged position until we're ready to put it back together over here. As I said earlier, the hex key for the drive is I found on the end plate there, and then the other important thing is when we wipe these clutch discs, there's these 3-tab ones. The very thick one is the very first one that goes into the clutch there. Bell. So wipe all these carbon fiber discs real quick. Found the thick one that goes in the bottom there. Time to reassemble this. So we need a round one. I'm going to build this stack of alternating drive and clutch discs, and then once we've built our stack like that, so I know everything's in the right order, I will reassemble it onto here, because this is where the hex that does the driving. Why do I have... Alright, well now I feel like I've got a spare piece in here. Alright, well, building the pile totally, like, failed my plan. This. Alright. Well, I've got what seems to be an extra clutch pad here. So I'm going to just stick it on the inside like that. And now that we have this all assembled on the hex side, I shifted the clutch into the release position, to slip this on the shaft, and then carefully just wiggle these back and forth with a teeny bit of pressure. Until there. Now, okay, so let's actually checking how much movement I have here. There, we're gonna just pick a spot and try it. Okay, that seems to be engaged now. Should be able to, yep, spin that freely. Alright, so we'll put make sure these are lined up very carefully, because the housing also has spots in there. We don't want to accidentally pinch we don't want to accidentally pinch any of the clutch parts. So the whole point, of course, is that the clutch parts can float. That is the clutch out. Alright, got lucky. I adjusted it just right on the first guess. So, cool. Now that we've cleaned all the gunk out of there, that clutch isn't stuck. So, I guess that's a warning. If you grease the gearbox, which mine didn't seem to have enough grease. I like to have a lot of grease, especially on model gears, just because the brass will wear pretty quickly if it's not lubricated. But over-greasing, it will leak down the shaft into the clutch here. And that clutch is actually a really fantastic little clutch. Is it six discs? That's a pretty impressive construction method. And it's nice that they went to that detail. Like I said, they could have just stuck a fork clutch in it. And of course, when the clutch was stuck, I could shift the straight gears while it was running. And they could have, just designed the transmission with a wide neutral band and had you, shift straight into gear without clutching if they had wanted to. But having a proper disc clutch like this is a very nice touch on this model. So now that that's put back together, we should be able to drive it properly again.